Our top story at this hour. Israel has praised the United States' proposal to resolve the maritime border dispute with Lebanon. The deal, if finalized, can lead to a possible profit sharing on future gas production by Beirut in the long-standing conflict.
במהלך סוף השבוע התקבלה בלבנון ובישראל הצעת המתווך האמריקאי להסכם על הגבול הימי בין שתי המדינות. אנחנו מנהלים דיונים על הפרטים האחרונים, כך שאי אפשר עדיין לברך על המוגמר, כפי שדרשנו מהיום הראשון. ההצעה שומרת על מלוא האינטרסים הביטחוניים מדיניים של ישראל, וגם על האינטרסים הכלכליים שלנו.
Beirut, meanwhile, is studying the 10-page draft agreement floated by U.S. envoy Amos Hochstein last week and said it would deliver a reply as quickly as possible. The details of the proposal have not yet been made public. However, over the weekend, the Hezbollah called the draft a very important step. The Lebanese group has earlier expressed its suspicions over any demarcation deal with Israel.
في موضوع الحدود البحرية وحقول النفط والغاز. وبعد هذه الأشهر من الجهد والجهاد والنضال والسياسي والميداني والإعلامي، في كل الأحوال شاهدنا اليوم من خلال الإعلام، طبعا نحن عرفنا ذلك، تسلم الرؤساء الثلاثة وبشكل رسمي النص المكتوب المقترح لمعالجة هذا الملف من الجهة الوسيطة. هذه خطوة مهمة جدا.
Meanwhile, former Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned that if his government comes to power in the November elections, it would undo any pact that it feels is illegal for Israel. Netanyahu has accused caretaker Prime Minister Yair Lapid of giving Hezbollah sovereign Israeli territory with a huge gas field, but did not specify which Israeli waters he believes are being surrendered. Now, Lapid has called his political opponent's statement irresponsible and against Israel's national interest. Defense Minister Benny Gantz has termed Netanyahu's criticism uninformed and dangerous. Lebanon and Israel have no diplomatic ties. Their land border is patrolled by the United Nations. The two countries reopened negotiations on their maritime border 2 years ago, but the process was soon stalled by Lebanon's demand that the map used by the United Nations during the talks be modified. The discussions later resumed after Lebanon seemingly modified its position, specifically concerning the Karish field, which Israel claims as its territory and not open to negotiation. For more on this story, we're now joined by WION correspondent Jody Cohen from Ranana. Jody, what are the Israeli and Lebanese governments saying about the proposed deal, the proposal that has come from the United States?
Right, so Lebanon says that over the weekend, President Michel Aoun received the US proposal to solve this maritime border dispute. Now, remember, we're talking about 860 square kilometers off the Mediterranean Sea that includes offshore gas fields. Now, state media there are saying that they're working quickly on getting their response to the US proposal. And in Israel, Prime Minister Lapid has said that they're conducting discussions on the final details. The deal isn't yet complete, but he reportedly would agree to the Kana gas field being for Lebanon's use, even though some of that lies within what he says is Israeli territorial waters, with both sides benefiting economically. He says that agreeing Israel's borderline would be good for Israeli and regional security, that it would restrain Hezbollah and stop them having sight into the northern Israeli coast, and also would weaken Lebanon's dependence on Iran.
But clearly, Jody, not everyone is happy with this proposed deal, are they? Can you tell us about some of those voices that are opposing it and the reasons that they've expressed?
Absolutely. So remember, the negotiations here began under the previous government. And interestingly, former US ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, he tweeted that the previous negotiations were actually much better for Israel and has expressed surprise that where they've potentially ended up. The opposition here is saying that Lapid is the interim prime minister and therefore doesn't have the legitimacy to make this deal. They're also saying that far from weakening Hezbollah, it actually would give them billions and they see it as a capitulation to the threats coming from Hezbollah, and saying that it's not even in exchange for a peace agreement. Netanyahu, as he said, has said that if he forms the next government, he won't be bound by it, and is reportedly feeling that this proposal has amounted to US interference in the election. Now, on the Lebanese side, Nasrallah has said that the deal could help rescue from the economic crisis that they're suffering there. They could still back out. If the talks fail, Hezbollah has threatened to go to war. And remember, in July, they sent drones over to target Israeli gas field. So there's lots at stake. The clock is ticking as well, remember, because President Aoun is leaving office at the end of October, and the Israeli elections are just the day after. And it's not just a lot at stake for Lebanon and for Israel, but this deal has the potential, and the gas reserves have the potential to help ease the global energy shortages. Now, remember, in June, Israel, Egypt and the EU signed the first ever natural gas export deal agreement. So that's no doubt going to be on the agenda as Prime Minister Lapid chairs today the first meeting of the EU-Israel Association Council that's happened in over a decade. So a lot of people will be looking very closely at what happens with this deal.
We'll have to wait and see what happens with this deal. Thanks very much, Jodie Cohen, for getting us all those details.
Thank you.